Hi, hello, what's up? We have a new chapter of Attack on Titan. This one is called From You 2,000 Years Ago. It's chapter 122. I think we're going to be going back a long, long ways, seeing perhaps the actual truthful lore of this series after hearing propaganda from all sides and half-remembered memories passed down through the generations. Perhaps a full-on flashback to the actual story of Ymir and the Titans and what have you. That's my guess. In the previous chapter, I'm just going to go back and make sure I remember what's happening. Yeah, they finished their little tour through memories. Eren had kind of resolved himself of something. We're not still quite sure what his plan was. There was a line that I really misunderstood, where he was talking to Zeke, and he was referring to Zeke as still a slave to their father's intentions. That even though Zeke had spent all this time rebelling against their father, that really the father was still dictating the pace. This was pointed out to me in a comment that Eren wasn't referring to himself, but was referring to Zeke. I was really confused at the time. I'm still really confused about a lot of things, but at least I feel like I understand the characterization really well. And that's something that's very strong in a manga series like this. If you have a very complicated plotline, which Attack on Titan is, if you have a whole lot of pretty crazy time travel stuff going on and all sorts of different factions vying for different things and seeing future memories of the past and stuff, what's important is that you can still grasp on cleanly to the characterization. You can still know in your heart what kind of person Eren is, what kind of person Zeke is, and thus kind of contextualize what's happening through those lenses. Okay, let's get into chapter 122. The last one ended with the ancestor Ymir walking over to the central controlling programming panel or whatever of the Eldian people, preparing to make them all unable to reproduce at Zeke's command. Eren ripping himself out of his chains, which I guess weren't magical, but were just real iron chains conjured up by Ymir, racing to stop her. And now we cut to some sort of flashback. Like a girl, what do you mean? When I say like a girl, I mean like this girl right here. So this is Ymir, I think. Or perhaps the person, the thing, the Titan that this girl is making covenant with is Ymir. Historia, you like this girl too, right? Yeah, because she's very kind and always puts others first. This world is cruel and ruthless. What? Okay. So this is the child Historia. But I feel like this is maybe many generations ago. This is when the Eldian people were first subdued by the other nations of the world, and when the first Paradise Island ghettoization plan was being put into effect. Or not the Eldians weren't ghettoized on Paradise Island, they retreated there themselves, right? But they were still enslaved and captured and stuff en masse up until that incident. So this is the other nations of the world capturing and torturing Eldians. This is indeed quite gruesome. Yeah, torture, cutting out people's tongues. You must become the kind of person everyone can love, and while supporting one another, you must survive. Underneath the cruel and ruthless world, there is another world that the sunlight never reaches. Okay. So this is the deep past. I think this must be 2,000 years ago, as the chapter title suggests. This is an era of Attack on Titan we've never seen, only heard spoken about. And as I said, much of what we hear about this era is propaganda towards one side or the other. So I can only assume that this flashback is, although it has a narrativization and a character focalization, i.e. this ancestor of Historia kind of dictating these memories, I assume these are all accurate scenes. You know, I assume this is genuinely what the ancestors of the Eldians were going through. One of you let the pigs escape. Tell me who it was. If you don't, I'll gouge out one of each of your eyes. Slaves don't need both eyes anyways. What a fine specimen this person is. Sheesh. And this is another Attack on Titan classic. The huddled masses, destitute at the edge, powerless. We've seen shots like this many times. And this feeling of, oh my god, all pointing at Historia, or the ancestor of Historia, right? Or, wait, the other interpretation, because the very first panel of this is Historia looking... Oh, okay, so I think this is what's happening. This is before the Eldians became the people with Titan powers, okay? So this is a shot of Historia learning about the history of the Eldians. And then we segue from Historia, who is the Historia we know, to the story of Ymir. Yeah, okay, this makes a lot more sense. So the narration going over top of this dialogue, and it's like kind of the contrast between this sort of storybook that Historia is reading with the much more brutal reality. And I think, yeah, so Ymir is kind of scapegoated here, chosen to be sacrificed. I'm not sure why. All right, then. She has nothing to say in response. So far in this flashback, this super flashback to 2,000 years ago, no one has spoken among the Eldians. None of the Eldians have spoken. Perhaps none of them have tongues. This is one dreadful conclusion that can be made here. All right, then. You are free. And she's let loose in the wilderness to be hunted for sport. And here we see a disturbing parallel to much, much earlier in the series, kind of one of the principal dynamics. If you're in the city walls, you're safe. But once you're outside in these deeply forested areas, there's always the chance that there's some Titan lurking around. This was one of the main kind of sources of suspense and action in the early arcs of the series, right? That generally outside of the walls is just unsafe, that Titans could be anywhere. And similarly, Ymir had a horrible, horrible life in the city, sure, but now that she's free and out here just being hunted for the fun of these Marlians or whoever these people are, she's in constant danger. There could be men or dogs behind every tree. She's already been shot once or twice, it looks like. She falls, blood splattering on this flower. Ooh. Okay. This is where it truly begins. This huge, mysterious tree. She enters in, and now she has to find a slingshot, solve a few puzzles involving lighting torches, swim under that rotating spiked bridge thing, and then fight a gigantic crab spider monster down in the roots. That's an Ocarina of Time joke. Just a little Ocarina of Time joke for y'all. And once she beats the crab spider monster, she'll step on the warp but get back off, and then go fight the final boss of Attack on Titan. Okay, so she falls down into the tree, and just like Ocarina of Time, lands in the water. I don't think she has get item manipulation. Oh, I'm gonna shut up now. No more Ocarina of Time jokes. Only Attack on Titan time. This is a pretty haunting panel. I'm so impressed with the paneling during flashbacks and stuff. The willingness to use these huge black pages with just sort of sparse paneling dotted throughout it. I think the biggest inspiration, or at least what I link this to, I don't know if this is actually the inspiration for the mangaka, is as long form webcomics that don't actually have like a print version, that are often written as like one long strip. And instead of having your kind of typical paneling situated, they'll just have panels like dotted out. And part of what sets like the rhythm and the tone and the pacing of reading it is how far apart those panels are. I haven't read too many series that are done like this, but I always thought that was kind of cool. Of course, I don't like it like strictly better than the way that manga so adapts to the fact that it is just page after page after page of the same size. But yeah, like this is a good example of how you can kind of hybridize the forms. We still just have a normal sized page, but the use of this blank black space really makes the feel totally different than if this was laid out as a conventional page. Just these bubbles like floating back up. It's so beautiful and yet so distressing. The way that the air like sheathes her body. Yeah, this is so cool. Okay. Wow. Okay. So there's some sort of insect or parasite, or perhaps it's just like sheer physical DNA. It looks somewhat like a root as well. So this is so strange because the Titans clearly have powers that can really only be defined as magical, right? The power to see memories of seeing the future, the power to transform and do all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah. And yet here, this is such like a natural looking, scientifically explainable thing that I assume is going to be the source of Titan power. So this is I kind of like this. It's like, in the end, it's just this very weird alien looking thing that just goes beyond explanation. And all of that like kind of mysticism and stuff, the strangeness of going into that end of Evangelion-esque space um, after the brothers made contact. All of that in the end is kind of transformed into just this such a strange looking thing. It's kind of like Lovecraftian in a way. There's a lot of Lovecraft stories where things like religion are evoked, or all sorts of mysticism is evoked, all sorts of rituals and cult-like behavior. But in the end, none of that really mattered compared to just this abhorrent alien entity. And it's like the mind's inability to reckon the truth that it's just this weird looking thing leads to all of this additional metaphysical, spiritual understanding. Okay, so she falls towards it. It's a lot smaller than I thought it was. I thought it was like huge compared to her, just based on this perspective. But I guess it's a lot closer than I thought it was. It starts to leech onto her. And then the huge tree toppling over. So, this is the original Titan. This is Ymir, the original Titan we're about to see, which has never been like faithfully introduced in this series. It's always been stories and drawings and stuff. I'm tempted to think, given that the series is almost over, and this is like the big grandmommy of all Titans, that this could be the biggest this Titan we have ever seen. Wouldn't that be kind of fun if it's just towering above the earth? I don't know. Let's see. So the barbarians hunting her down look on in awe. Oh yeah, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. That might, I don't know. It's hard to get a sense of the scale yet because we don't know how foregrounded these trees are. But it's definitely pretty big. And see, they're using, this is something Magic the Gathering does a lot. It's called scale birds, where if you have some artwork of a creature that's supposed to be really, really huge, but it's like the only thing in the frame, or it's like in the frame, but there's some stuff that could be any size also in the frame, like rocks or mountains or something. To really show how big it is, you draw some birds. You draw some really tiny little birds flying around the big thing, and then everyone is like, whoa, it's big. So they're doing that here. So it's definitely really, really big. I just don't know if it's bigger than the Colossal Titan. Oh, I think so. It's real spooky too. You can see the tendrils of that thing that latched onto it still kind of wrapping around, looking almost like a pseudo ribcage. So I guess that's what that thing really mostly looks like, is kind of like a spinal column, which of course is something that's been very key throughout Attack on Titan. The nape, of course, being the weak spot when you're titanized, and the spinal fluid that flows through the spinal column being something that has all sorts of properties, can convert other people into mindless titans and stuff. The whole adventure of the wine with Zeke's spinal fluid. So, yeah, this is our original Titan, and it sure looks huge. Look, you can see like the curvature of the planet in this shot. This surely must be the biggest Titan we've ever seen. Ymir, my slave, you've done well. What an abrupt cut. So she de-titanizes and then is brought to the chieftain again. You broke through new roads. You've plowed rough land. You've erected bridges over the ridges. Thanks to our clan, Eldia has grown large and prosperous. Okay, so what I kept referring to as the Eldian people, which I thought were the people enslaved by what was a different group. This is actually just all Eldia, okay? So I see what's going to happen now. Remember, there's like two different narratives about what the original Titan did. One is that she brought prosperity to the land. She used her gigantic size to build infrastructure and clear fields and stuff, which is what the chieftain is praising Ymir for doing right now. On the other hand, there's a story that Ymir was warlike and hawkish and would invade other countries, and they were trying to take over the world, the Eldians. So I think it's going to be both, insofar as Ymir just wants to build up the prosperity of their country and liberate people from slavery and supply all the physical labor they need and allow them to grow prosperous. But then the chieftain forces her, through yet unknown means, because she could just squish them, to start invading other countries, giving Eldian people this other reputation. This is my thinking. Maybe this is obvious, but I think that's kind of cool. I think in the end, the fact that it's like everybody actually has an accurate memory of what happened, it's just that they all saw kind of different sides of it, is kind of neat. It really reinforces this everything is gray, nobody is blameless feel of the entire series. Your reward will be to bear my offspring. Under the name Fritz, you will destroy the accursed Marley. Yes, yes. And it looks like Marley at the time was much more technologically advanced. They've full-on entered the Iron Age or Steel Age or something, whereas this tribe doesn't have full plate armor, still using mostly cloth and leather armor. We saw them hunting mostly with like bow and arrow and stuff, and spears, where it looks like the Marleyan people. Well, they also have spears, but they have shields too. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is what the sensor's supposed to get, because it mirrors as well modern Eldia and Marley. That Eldia, or rather, you know, like, okay, so, yeah, Marley is much more advanced than Paradise Island, of course. But then, in general, Marley is losing this arms race where they just have the Titan power, which has served them well up until now, but then other countries are coming up with, like, airplanes and tanks and armored trains and all sorts of stuff like that. Okay, so, this is what happened, yeah. I don't understand why Ymir is, like, putting up with all this, though. She'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. What are you going to do? Oops, I'm 600 times as large. Can you really deal with me now? But I guess this is just kind of her way. That she's submissive and obedient, almost pathologically so. And that when we see commands being given to her in this realm, like Zeke saying, okay, it's time to remove all the reproductive power of Eldians, she just goes and does it, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, so it's already happening. My gosh. I thought this was just hypothetical. You'll destroy the accursed Marley. He's like, yeah, this is what it's going to be like. Those losers. But no, she's just doing it. How could they possibly be ready for this? How could they possibly do anything? Heads on spears. Gruesome. Ymir pregnant with the chief's baby. The Fritz royal bloodline established. Massacring the Marlians. Building. Yes, okay. Alright. And again, gotta shout out this paneling. I think it's so cool. And this looks like Marleyan soldiers that are now submitting to the king. Because they have those like centurion helmets with the brushy thing, which is like, well, why did they put those on there? I don't understand, but whatever. Just makes your hitbox bigger. So, looks like Marley now has fully submitted. Ymir just a little better now. That's nice. She was in slave rags for so long after she became useful. Oh, one person stands up. Hidden a spear inside the sand. I kind of like this because, well, it's a cool shot. Yeah, I like it just because of that. But it also just reminds me of the sort of tactics used throughout this series. That so many of the battles have this sort of element where the reader is led to believe, oh, we've lost, it's hopeless, and then the surprise plan, the spear in the sand. And that even during this flashback, which isn't narrated and has no dialogue, or at least it hasn't for quite a while, there's still like the same sorts of people involved. It's still the same world. And so people are still out here burying their spears in the sand. You know, I think that's kind of cool. So yeah, I'm assuming he's trying to kill the king. Chucks the spear. Ymir takes it. Because that's just the kind of girl she is. This guy immediately impaled. Right through the neck. Oh my gosh. Okay. Everyone looking down. Her 3 children devastated. Ymir dying. The original King Fritz. It's interesting the way that almost everyone's eyes are in shadow during this flashback. Are there exceptions? I haven't really noticed many exceptions. It kind of just has this sense of distance to it that it's like when you look back at history at a sufficient distance, it's sometimes quite difficult to humanize what people were doing back then. And you kind of have this sense that it's like you can see them act, you can see them speak, you can see them behave, but something is cut off to you. The eyes are downturned, the eyes are cast in shadow. You can't really look into their eyes. You can't really see how they were feeling back then. You can only just see what they were doing, you know? It's kind of a sense you get of history. Can't you picture, you know, like statues, the dead eyes of a statue, or those paintings where it looks so realistic and full of life, and then when you look into the eyes, you realize no, you realize like there's always going to be this distance. I don't know. I think it's a really nice touch. Yeah. What are you doing? Get up. I know you cannot die from a mere spear. Get up and work. It's all you were born for. Ymir, my slave. Yes. Something is quite wrong with Ymir. Like, through some sort of mechanical aspect of the lore, or perhaps just through extreme personality, she simply cannot disobey. She's thinking back to that day. when she became titanized. The blood dripping onto the petals of the flower. And then she finds herself here in the end of Evangelion Desert, where she basically did nothing for 2,000 years, and then some annoying brothers showed up and wanted to do a whole Christmas Carol thing. Oh my gosh. Eat, my daughters. You must inherit Ymir's powers, no matter what it may take. Forcing his children to eat their mother. This is some like Greek mythology type thing. It has that level of depravity, I guess I would say. It's just so, yeah. Yeah, that's very gruesome. Maria, Rose, and Sheena. Those are the names of the 3 walls on Paradise Island, right? Let's see. Let's see. Why are people watching this? Gosh, I wouldn't want to watch this. I'm having a hard enough time even reading it. This is quite a gruesome panel. Not something that would be out of place in like a Shintaro Kago manga. Saying a lot. Guy's the grandfather of gore. And Ymir looking back, even though she's in this abstracted place out of space and time, as if she can still see what's happening to her corpse. My daughters, you must bear many children to carry on Ymir's bloodline. When you die, have your grandchildren eat your spine. When they die, their children will eat theirs, and so on and so forth. Even after I die, I want Eldia to invade the lands of the world with the power of giants. And here she is at what kind of, again, looks like a spinal cord, right? At first I thought, oh, it's like a tree. It's like Berserk. But no, I think it's much more analogous to a spinal cord. And analogous to whatever that thing was down in the water that latched onto Ymir that day. And here we see the progenitor of Ymir. So I believe these are the king and Ymir's grandchildren. The set of titans that we know and love are a jolly bunch of 8 that are in direct service to the original Titan, the Colossal Titan in the back, the Beast Titan, the Warhammer Titan, the Jaw Titan, the Cart Titan, the Female Titan, and the Armored Titan. What a gang! Yeehaw! The gang's all here. what a man! It's as I said before. It's quite fascinating to me this that at the edge of the mystical, there's this kind of brutal, gruesome reality that again kind of feels Lovecraftian. That the secret and the lore, like the secret behind what's been happening this whole time, is children eating the spines of their parents. You know, after all these theories of, I mean, this isn't a theory of like what the Titans are. I remember, man, when I first started reading this series, the threads about it, where people were trying to speculate like what was going on. The stuff like the Titans are made out of bread. It's like a yeast-born virus, and it like rapidly rises, and it's all about bread Titans and stuff. So we had the theories as far ranging between that, and then of course like totally kind of mystical interpretations of the series, where this is all preordained by gods, and it's just kind of this cosmic ballet, to quote The Simpsons. But that at the end, after all of that, when we're really tearing down wall after wall of propaganda and story, that the real events that happened involved like cannibalism of the mother and a strange parasite that lived in a lake inside of a tree, and this brutal utilitarianism from the king of just have children, more titans, more titans. and that, you know, all of the stories in a sense were true, but none of them captured this core, fleshy, bloody gruesomeness. I don't know. I am pretty impressed with all of this. Like I never, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. That's how it is, but I don't know what I feel about it. That's how it is, and all I can feel is like, ugh. You know, that's all I can say is, ugh. And I don't know. I don't know what that reflects. Let my titans reign the world for all eternity. Until the world ends, we will reign forever. It ends now. And here we see Ymir building the multitude of gigantic titans. These are easily the size of the colossal titan-ish. So these are the titans, I believe, that form the wall. Now, I don't really get how this worked in practicality, and in the end, of course, we know that there is the brutal practical truth of this series, so I'm not willing to assume that there was some kind of magic, I'm going to warp these into the real world now. But somehow, painstakingly, she built all of these titans in the place beyond time and place, the time and space, sorry. And then through a process even more grueling, I'm sure, these manifested into the walls of Paradise Islands. Maybe? But then in the midst of King Fritz's speech, objecting through time and space, Eren shouts out, "It ends now," grabbing Ymir from behind. I will end this world. Just straight up. That's what he's doing. Not, I'm going to end the Eldian people peacefully by preventing them from having children. But I will end the entire world. Is this how this series is going to end? With the apocalypse? I don't know. I'm sure. Okay, let's see. Let's see. What the heck is going to happen? End this world. Give me the power I need. I gotta free up some storage space ASAP. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, hold on. I gotta get some videos out of here. Panicking. Okay, I think that staved it off. I have to remember to back up my videos because I record straight to my solid state drive, but it's not very big. But I do that because I think it's probably a lot faster and less laggy and stuff. But I gotta remember to clean them off there occasionally, or else it's bad news. Sorry, that was in the midst of this drama, that pop-up gave me some more drama, because before I had a problem, I didn't do it in time, and then the video file became corrupted and unusable. Okay. You're not a slave, and you're not a god either. You're only human. Okay, so trying to break Ymir out of this kind of predestined, no agency mindset. Don't have to obey anyone. Just decide for yourself. Okay. Zeke running towards them. And this, I think, as well. I mean, I made some jokes before about, like, how surprised I was that Eren was able to just rip himself out of the cuffs. Because I thought of this space as, like, purely a world of metaphor and magic and such, where the idea of cuffs would be enough to keep you in. It's not like the physical reality of the cuffs meant anything. But now with this kind of new attitude that I'm kind of espousing for this series, that the physical reigns supreme, and that in the end there's this brutality and realism to everything, then this space now makes a lot more sense. It literally is just this desert. It literally is just people there, physical things being conjured up, And so it makes sense that Zeke has to just book it. He has to just run fast and get there on time. Like, it's not like he can warp himself over there or something. It's not like he can just think, I wish I was confronting Eren. What are you saying, Eren? That you want to end the world? Stop, what are you doing? You decide, it's your choice. Do you want to stay here forever or put an end to it all? Doing, Ymir. So Zeke was fairly confident that Ymir couldn't be stopped. The handcuff's just a formality. But in the end, she is just a little girl. Eren easily has the power to hold her back. Or because she's kind of the god of this realm, and in another sense, it would have been super easy for her to just, I don't know, knock Eren flying, or make sand come and swallow him up, do a million other things. So I guess that's why Zeke shouts out here, what are you doing, Ymir? Like, why are you just standing there? Why are you not proceeding with my instructions? Obey my order. Take away the ability to procreate from all Eldians. Do it now. Ymir, you're the one that led me all this way, aren't you? I'm of royal blood. Yeah, so this is the programming that ever since the original King Fritz, or Chief Fritz, as he was probably called back then, Ymir simply cannot say no. She is eternally a slave to the royal family. But Eren denies that. Waited all this time. For 2,000 years, you've waited for something. Oh my gosh. And for the first time ever, Ymir's face not cast in shadow, her eyes not that historical downturned shadow that I was talking about earlier, but fully vivid, real human eyes crying out. That's quite a scene. Yes. For 2,000 years, she's been in here. Okay. So we suddenly cut away back to the real deal world where this whole time Eren's head has been flying through the air. Remember, right, as soon as we transitioned into the end of Evangelion Desert, we had like all of those split-second shots. This is everything that's happening right at that second, and we have only advanced a second or more since. And then suddenly, exploding, it looks like out of Eren's spine, carrying blood out of Eren's body, and then connecting, plunging into his skull. I think that's what's going on here. So possibly to go, it's so gross, is this original parasite, this thing that Ymir encountered deep within the lake beneath that tree, which I still can't get over how cool that is. That it wasn't any sort of enchanted fairy tale book scene where the Titan reached down and said, "Do you desire power, young woman?" But instead just this unthinking, alien-looking parasite that, without discussing it, without any sort of grandeur, just latched onto her body. And now we see it here, 2,000 years later. The walls are coming down. Ymir is gonna end the world. The world flattening weapon is being unleashed. No one knows what the heck to think. What? Okay. All right. It's finally time for those Titans to attack. The wall, being one of the most iconic images in the entire series, is finally fully crumbling down. The first huge revelation There's titans in them there walls has finally come to pass as all of these things under Ymir's command, these titan soldiers she had made over 2,000 years, keeping herself busy. It's really happening. I knew it must happen at some point. Like, there's no way they wouldn't show this. People would be so disappointed if they didn't get to see this scene. It's all happening. Gabi knocked back. The Scouting Legion fighting Reiner for the 512th time. Looking up and going, oh, something's happening. I'm so sick of fighting this guy. He's literally made out of armor. Like, it's not working. Screaming out for Gabi. Reiner trying to save her. In a scene very paralleling the original Grim Reminder, which was perpetuated in part by Reiner, and the inability for Eren to save his mother. Similarly, Reiner reaching out to try to save Gabi. A complex parallel, to be sure, but I feel like it's not an undue comparison. This is quite an amazing shot. The wall just exploding. The detail of these kind of wide establishing shots has always surprised me in this series. And I gotta think about how satisfying it is for this mangaka, who for 10 years has been drawing these walls, to at long last get to draw them exploding. Wouldn't that just be an amazing feeling? The walls crumbling down. You can't stop it now. It looks like Ymir is manifesting herself in kind of like a pure Titan form. Look at the jaw. Oh my gosh. That's so disturbing. And all of the wall Titans have at last emerged. So I guess that was the final order from Fritz. I want my Titans to invade the lands of the world. And so Ymir has been diligently preparing herself for that for 2,000 years. So yeah, you can't stop it now. This is the world-flattening weapon of much discussion. I guess it's going to go off and flatten the world. I don't know. I don't know what could stop it now. Because, as I've been saying, it's the true reality of this series always comes down to this brutal physicality. And all of the inspiring speeches and metaphysical conclusions and loopholes or whatever you want to find isn't going to stop hundreds and hundreds of gigantic titans from doing what they do, which is smash and stomp. Yeah, all right. Crazy chapter. Crazy chapter. I don't know. First chapter was to you 2,000 years ago, and now we have a from you 2,000 years ago. Okay, I kind of thought so. So this is really bookending it. There's not going to be much left. All right. I'll see you in like a month, I guess. Sheesh. Okay. Bye.